Good morning, everybody. Hope you had a good weekend. Welcome to the Monday call. If you've got questions, concerns, things going well, things going poorly, now is the time to tell us about it. Go ahead and put it into the question section. We'd be glad to talk about it. Otherwise, I am very happy to announce that Missy will be doing today's call, and what she's going to do is walk through how we had our office set up while I was in personal production. So we actually sold 232 people so actually had 232 new clients come on in 2 years when she was running the office for me. And we had her, Missy, and one other person, a receptionist, do all this. So I had 2 support staff, and I was still able to run 200 or bring on 232 new clients during that time period. So she ran a very tight ship with a lot of organizational skills. And this was also before we had a lot of computer backup. So we did a lot of this stuff, Missy did a lot of this stuff with paper and folders, and it still worked unbelievably well. So it's a privilege to let her walk through how we did that. And please, guys, if you have questions now on how to set up an office or logistical questions, today would be a great time to ask those questions. And also, this is going to be a great hour to have your support staff watch as well. If they're not on now, to get them on the replay and let them watch that. And here we go. So, Missy, can you help us out?
Perfect. Thanks, Mike. So, yeah, absolutely. We just put together this, I just uploaded onto the website the Organizing Your Office Flow Manual. So we're going to start here. When you log in, you're going to come to the Getting Started page, and now there's a section called Organizing Your Office Flow. So that's exactly what we're going to be going through today. So as we're making reference to a couple of the different templates or tracking forms that we have available, they will be available right there on the website for you. So that's where you're going to find it. Okay, so as Mike just pointed out, I have no technology. This is not a high technical system to show you. So this was created back, 13, 14 years ago, and of course has been tweaked along the way. But this works for those of you that have no technology and say, you know what, I'm not the least bit interested in the electronic calendars. I still work off of a paper calendar. Fine, that works. That's actually how we even began this process. For those of you that operate your office very technically, this system, you can take some of the things that we're talking about and you can apply it to however technical your system is and your office is. So don't feel like I'm going to just go through all sorts of high-level technology that you're not interested in using. This is a very low technical system. So that being said, please keep that in mind as we're going through this, because some of you might say, what? You're doing this on paper? You're doing this with a highlighter? Seriously, why are you telling me this? But this worked very, very well, and so you can use whatever level of technology that you want implementing this concept that we're going to go through. So before we get started, I want to at least talk through the different timing of appointments, because some people are struggling to figure out, what, when should I book this appointment? How far in between my first appointment and my second appointment? So I'm going to start here so we're all kind of on the same page, and then we'll talk a little bit more details from that point. So as we all hopefully know, we have a 3-meeting process. Our first meeting is the agreement meeting, and that meeting is going to be about an hour long. So you're going to schedule your agreement meetings for about an hour, and these need to be scheduled immediately after the event. 1 to 3 days is what we say. Anything outside of 3 days, your risk of losing your or having people cancel or them not show up dramatically increases. So these should be scheduled from immediately after the event and 3 days out at the absolute latest. And again, that's going to be an hour-long appointment. Then your second meeting is what we refer to as our disclosure meeting. That's going to be about an hour and a half. An hour and a half to 2 hours if you want to leave yourself a little extra time, but we're going to say an hour and a half, I guess, for purposes of going through today. And those need to be scheduled about 10 days to 2 weeks after you've met with them for your first appointment. Now this is contingent. This appointment is contingent upon you having copies of documents so that you're able to run and do their 21-point checklist. So if you don't receive those items at the agreement meeting, you are going to need those items before you can do the disclosure meeting. So we like to schedule it out about 10 days to 2 weeks, but that's contingent upon you receiving those documents 7 to 10 days before, so that you have a few days of prep time to get that 21-point checklist done. The third meeting is the implementation meeting. That's our number 3 meeting. And again, we're back to an hour length. So far we're 1 hour for the agreement meeting, an hour and a half for the disclosure meeting, and another hour for the implementation meeting. And that's going to be about 1 week after you had the disclosure meeting, the 21-point checklist. And then every meeting thereafter is going to be scheduled for about that hour. So either for a follow-up meeting after the third appointment if they're not quite ready to sign paperwork, or when you are ready to sign paperwork, again, we'll schedule all of those meetings for about an hour. And if you're prepared to sign paperwork, that can be as early as a day after the implementation meeting or the follow-up meeting that you decided what the solution was, all the way to a week after. I would not go out any farther than what I've said for any of these appointments, because obviously that just continues to cause problems of them not showing up or stretching it out. They forget the information that you went through, and now you have to kind of rehash that information again. So this process of the 3 meetings should not be stretching out longer than 3 weeks, 4 weeks at the latest. So, oftentimes we'll hear that we've gone 3 months or longer. We don't want that. Is causing you no favors. So we want to make sure we try to keep these appointments as timely and as crunched together as possible within reason. So from this point going forward, we're picking up from immediately after the event. So an event has been run, you've booked appointments directly at the event, and now we're picking up right at that point. So as you have questions, feel free to chime in. I'll try to kind of keep an eye on that questions panel as well. And Mike, of course, if you have comments, feel free to chime in as well. So we'll get started right after the event. After the event was held, you've booked all the appointments that you could directly at the event, but there'll always be a few people that didn't make appointments, and at the event, if they didn't write "do not call" on their evaluation forms, we want to go ahead and extend a phone call out to every one of those people and see if we can capture a few more appointments. Now, ideally, this is the assistant that is calling out to these people, because keep in mind, as an agent, you're extremely busy right now meeting with people. So ideally, you're going to have an assistant or someone that you're able to tap into that's going to go ahead and call out to all of those people that requested or that didn't request you not to call. So that's the key. If they didn't tell you, hey, don't call me, I'm not interested, we are going to go ahead and call out to those people. For all of the people that you did make appointments for, you're going to come back to your office, and the very first thing you're going to go ahead and do is mail out the first appointment confirmation letter. This is a mailed version, and again, we'll go through, and I can show you on the website too where some of these items are, but they're all found within documents of the appropriate appointment. So for instance, we've got this first appointment confirmation letter. That's going to be available to you out underneath the first appointment meeting. And this kind of rehashes a little bit of the handout letter that you provided them at the event. So for those people, because keep in mind, you're booking these appointments 1 day to 3 days out from the event. So you could feasibly be preparing for your first appointments tomorrow, the very next day, in which time there's probably not time to get them out this actual confirmation letter. So if that's the case, you've already done the what to bring handout letter. You don't need to worry about mailing out a confirmation letter to them if their appointment is the very next day. We're going to give them some credit that they'll remember that for a 24-hour period of time. But if they're 2 days or even 3 days down the road, absolutely go ahead and try to pop this in the mail. They should get it in a timely manner to before they come to your office. So if you've previously provided them with that what to bring handout letter and their appointment is the following day, you've got it covered. The next thing we're going to do is we worked on a color-coded calendar system. So as I was showing you the flow of appointments, we kind of used yellow for agreement meeting, pink for disclosure meeting, blue for implementation meeting, and green for the paperwork signing meeting. Now, those colors don't mean anything. You can use whatever colors you want. I just used those are the colors that we happen to use, and it was easy for us to pick out because they had highlighters those colors. So you can use whatever colors you want, but for illustration purposes today, those are the colors we're going to go through. So we got back with our calendar, and again, we used a paper calendar. So if you're using an electronic calendar, the same thing can apply. So you can still highlight these in whatever color you want. I'd make sure that all of the agreement meetings that we had scheduled at the event were now highlighted with yellow. So it was very easy for us to flip the calendar and see exactly what's gone on for the next week with all of the appointments that we had booked. So we went through and we color-coded everyone. Then we had a vertical file.
I'm going to jump in there for a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
So guys, the reason we color-coded that is for everybody's benefit. But this color-coding helped me because when you're doing an event, you're going to see a lot of people, and you got to get your head on. You will lose track of what's going on. So this would prepare me for what my next meeting was about. So I wouldn't be like, oh, I wonder what's this person's about. So this is essential to have something like this so you can get your head on straight for your next appointment. So if you have a 10 and then you have an 11:30 and you have a 1, it's really essential that you know what that next meeting is about, at least in your head. So I would highly recommend that you have some sort of color coding or something like that, like Missy's pointing out here, so you can keep your head on straight throughout the day. So thanks, Missy.
Mm-hmm. And just kind of to add to that as well, and we'll talk a little bit more about this when we get to the disclosure meeting, but obviously the disclosure meeting we're using pink for. That's critical because at the beginning of the week, Mike would come in over the weekend and prepare all of his proposals for the following week. So it was very easy for me to look in the calendar and say, oh, I've got 4 pink meetings, that would be disclosure meetings. I better have 4 folders here that have proposals that need to get organized and bound and whatever else. And if I didn't have 4, we knew right out of the gate that we had a problem because of our color coding. We knew exactly I've got folders for this many for agreement meeting and this many for disclosure meeting. So it was a very easy way to just take a look at what's in this vertical file divider and see exactly if we're missing anything. So
okay, so guys, so what I would do is when I did all of my proposals all at one time. So let me see some answers. Why do you think I did all my proposals when it went all at one time? I did 1, 2, 3. So if I had 4 for the next week, I sat down and did all 4 proposals, one after the other. 1, 2, 3, 4 for the next week. Why do you think I did that, guys? Yeah, you get into a rhythm, RC. You get into a rhythm. I got them chunking the work, exactly, Eric. So by doing that, I could get those 4 done really, really quickly, where if I just did them a little here, a little there, a little there. You guys have done that. If you're trying to build a deck, are you better off building that deck all at one shot, or just spending an hour on it here and an hour on it there? If you spend an hour on it here, an hour on it there, you're going to be going, that deck's never going to get done. So what I would do, and that was important to the color coding. I actually came in because it was when I had young children, and I only had Saturday and Sunday with them, so I didn't want to waste that time. And I was meeting people during the week. I came in on a Saturday morning at 5 in the morning, and there were those 4 pink folders for me to get done. So I'd go boom, 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 and I'd be out of there. I don't think it ever took me more than about 2 hours, 2.5, 3 hours, 3 hours at the very, very most, even my most busiest times, to get all those done because I was focused. Because how quickly did I want to get out of there on a Saturday morning? So it was kind of my push to get those things done. And it was nice to walk in on a Saturday morning to see those pink folders. I didn't have to look at the calendar, figure out who I was going to meet. They were just sitting there right there in the face. I grabbed those 4 pink folders, and boom, 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 boom. I'd hash those 4 out, done, went home. So I would highly recommend you do those proposals in a chunk like that because you get them done much more quickly because you get into a groove or a rhythm.
I see I just see a question here from Bruce, and I'm not sure if I tracked the whole thing, but he's commenting that Thursday seminars are a potential challenge because it's very hard to reach them on Friday to verify, and if Sunday is NG, no go. So so I think what you're saying is it's difficult to meet them in a timely manner from a Thursday seminar. You know, we didn't really struggle with that. We had a lot of appointments on Fridays, and so we'd have our Thursday seminar, we'd have appointments on Friday.
And keep in mind, guys, you guys might not want to work Friday, but these are retired people. They have no problem meeting with you on a Friday. So, and they're at home on Friday. So, again, we get in the mindset as a financial advisor, I leave the office at noon or whatever. That's fine if you have that mentality, but clients don't have it. When you're retired, Friday is just like Monday. So they'll meet with you on a Friday. That's no problem, and they're home Friday to make sure that for those calls. So Friday's not a huge issue to make those calls. Now I would agree that to call them the day before their meeting, so that Monday, if they have their meeting on Monday, it's really difficult. You're not going to call them on Monday. But like Missy said, we just didn't have that problem with a lot of people not showing up for that Monday call. The reason being is because if they made the appointment, if I had the event on Thursday and they made an appointment Monday, they're going to show up for that appointment because it's very close to when they made the appointment. Now, if it was 2 Mondays, in the future, yeah, you're going to start having that problem of them not showing up. But if it's the first Monday right after those events, you don't have a lot of problem with people not showing up. Second Monday or third Monday, yeah, then you're going to have problems. But we don't want to schedule them 2 and 3 weeks in advance if at all possible. Does that help, Bruce?
And also a follow-up question that I see, he says he's not against meeting people on Saturday. Now I'm going to get on my soapbox a little bit, so because you guys are all grown adults and you can decide what schedule works for you. But I will say, this is a training process as much for you guys as it is for your clients. So if you are in the habit of constantly meeting these people on Saturday, every appointment, you should expect that they will request to meet you every Saturday. You will not be able, it's very difficult to change their mindset that, well, you met me with Saturday the first time, so if you're okay working Monday through Saturday, go for it. But if you're not okay working Monday through Saturday for those clients, then I would revamp your schedule and figure out a Monday through Friday day that you can agree upon to meet them, because that is the expectation that you have now set for that particular client.
And keep in mind, we have chosen to work with people who are retired. If you're going to work, so they can meet with you 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 at night. They don't want to meet with you in the evening, so it's a Monday through Friday daytime job. If you're meeting people who are still working, then you're probably going to have to start working in the evening and have to start working on Saturdays. We've chosen to go after primarily the people who are already retired, so that you don't have to work those 6 days a week in weird hours. You can work a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday job. But yeah, if you're going to go after people who are still working, you're probably going to have to meet them on a Saturday, or you're going to have to meet them in the evening. But that's why we don't market to those people. But when you get a referred a person like that, maybe you have to do that. But as Missy said, you've just harnessed yourself to that evening appointment or that Saturday appointment, because if that's when they met with you, and that's when the only time they could meet with you, then you're going to have to meet with them at that same time every time going forward. So you're going to have to make a decision if that's the kind of practice you want to run. There's nothing wrong with it, but just know that going forward, then that's when you're going to be meeting with that person.
Okay. This vertical file divider, I'm going to try to give you a little bit of a visual, but you'll have to kind of work with me a little bit. So it's one of those file folder dividers. It just sits on the desk outside of like Mike's office. We just had it sitting there, and it had 10, 12 different spots, and that is where we would put all of these appointment folders that had the color-coded stickers on them in chronological order. So when Mike talks about coming out of his office and finding, trying to get in the groove and figure out what he had next, he literally would start at the front of the vertical file divider, and he could look back for, whatever the next 10 to 12 appointments were. And so that just I just kept rotating those through. So his very next appointment was in the front. Then the appointment behind that was in the second spot. And the appointment behind that, So 3 appointments from now would be next. So we just kind of kept that as our little rotation. It was very easy for him to always know who he's meeting with and what appointment he's going into next. So that's the vertical file divider that we're talking about. And it was just something that just sat on, we just had a lateral filing cabinet directly outside of his office. It sat on the top of that. It was very easy for him to grab their folder and go off and running. So that's after the event. Now we're moving into the first meeting. So all of that's been done. You've now prepared everything. You're going to extend a reminder call the night before. Obviously, we've talked about if you're meeting these people on Monday or you're meeting them on Saturday, you're going to have to decide when those reminder calls work for you. A Friday reminder call for our Monday appointments never seemed to be an issue for us. People that had just come to a Thursday event, they had no problem, and we just did not run into problems with them not showing up for a Monday appointment. They were early morning people, so it wasn't like, oh, you know, it slipped their mind. They were ready for it. They were very prepared for it. So we've got our file folder prepared, and inside that file folder, we used a legal-sized brown accordion folder that contained everything. So that was just the legal size. That's the physical file that was sitting inside that vertical divider. So that brown accordion folder had a blank fact find data gathering form. So that's our form that we use in order to plug into the 21-point checklist software. So it had a blank one of those because that's now what you're going to go through and complete for the first meeting. It had a copy of their green evaluation form that they had completed at the event. Sometimes that has notes on it as to, you know, what their hot button was, or kind of can give me some information. So I always would put a copy of that into their folder as well. A little notepad to just jot down notes for Mike as he's talking with them, and a copy of the first appointment confirmation letter if one had been sent out. So that's all that was in that brown accordion folder, but keep in mind we're going to continue to add to it. So we need something that can contain all of the documents going forward. So that was just an easy thing for us to file in our filing cabinet when we got done, or work through this whole process, the first, second, third meeting process. Manila file folder with the actual prospect's name on it. So, and I just put in pencil there because these are things that you can recycle. No sense in just, you know, throwing them away after if the person doesn't continue through or cancels or whatever. You can just erase it and recycle it for another person. And again, that was just where we would put their personalized information and maybe copies of their documents and all of that. Just helped kind of divide out that big brown accordion folder a little bit. And then we would have a little sticky note on the front of
Hey, can I stop?
Yep.
Eric's asking, I thought there were no hot buttons. Oh, you're just making a joke, Eric. Funny. Yeah, dude. So you're right. The evaluation forms, guys, and you know what? It's funny, Eric. Great minds think alike. As Missy said that, that's what went through my mind as well. Guys, the evaluation form is just so you can get a general feeling for was the client happy at the event, or did they have some griping, or what was their mentality. The evaluation form, and I know, Eric, that now that I see the LOL on there, is not to gather hot buttons. Because, guys, I'll ask you a question. Does it care? Do we care what their hot buttons are at that first meeting, guys? No, Eric says. Yeah, I know you know because you're making a joke. So, guys, we don't care what their hot buttons are. Do we care what their hot buttons are at the second meeting, guys? Let me see some answers to this. Okay, Eric says no. Eric gets it. Anybody else? Okay, thanks, Casey. So we don't care about their hot buttons because we conduct these meetings the same no matter what their hot button is, okay? We do not look for their hot button. We are conducting these meetings the same for every single person. So don't just jump into whatever they put on their evaluation for the hot button, because if you jump into their hot button, what will you be doing, guys? If you start talking about their hot button, what are you now doing, guys? Selling, Eric. Exactly. You're selling. That's right, RC. Casey, you're selling. You don't want to do that. The first meeting is not about selling. The second meeting is not about selling. So we better not be talking about their hot button until at least when? The third button, when they've told us, the third meeting, when they've told us they are moving all their money. Then we can talk about their hot buttons, but not until they're moving all the money. Super. Thanks, Missy.
Yep. And so on that brown accordion file, we have now put a little sticky note, highlighted it with the meeting color, and organized it in the appropriate chronological order. So that takes care of our first meeting. So what do we do now after the client has left? Well, before they leave or on their way out of the office, that is when you schedule your disclosure meeting. The next meeting is scheduled before they leave your office. So we're scheduling that disclosure meeting 10 days to 2 weeks out, and again, that is contingent upon the client bringing or already having given you the documents that you made photocopies of, or you are providing them with a postage-paid envelope to mail all of those documents back to your office at least 7 days before. So
Can I
as
jump
you're,
in there?
Yep.
Wait, not a postage-paid envelope. You get them a FedEx envelope because it makes them feel, and that's what Missy means there.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
we use a FedEx envelope because it makes them feel like it's more secure.
And priority mail envelope is also an acceptable option. And they now have flat rate priority mail, so that's probably the direction I would go, because you could just throw a stamp on it, and it's everything that they can shove in that box or that folder can come right back to you. So, now how I handled it with the people that didn't have their documents with, I just kindly asked them on their way out, as I was handing them the envelope, if they had an idea when I could expect to receive those, just so I was keeping an eye out for it. And I never had people push back saying, oh, well, I know it's going to take me forever. I'm not going to be able to get this back for another, week and a half. It was just really not an issue. I mean, they understood that we needed those documents at least 7 days before we could have their meeting. So if we scheduled their meeting for January 20th, I needed those by the 10th. They got it, and then they usually would say, oh, you know what, we'll go home and I'll get that stuff pulled together. I'll probably drop it back in the mail to you tomorrow, or Friday at the latest. Perfect. I'll be watching for it then first thing on Monday morning. And then they kind of understood that, hey, this is an expectation. I'm waiting. I'm planning my schedule around you putting this back in the mail to me. So it was, again, reciprocating this effort. I just gave you this envelope. You just told me that I can expect this on Monday. And so that's exactly where we're going at this point.
And I'll jump in there too. Guys, if you really want that to work even better, if Missy has a calendar and she writes that in her calendar right in front of them, it says, as Missy was saying, that they then know that Missy is expecting it. It's actually in the calendar for her to expect it, and they will follow. They will do what you ask them to do.
And it also gave me an opportunity to reach out to them. If for some reason I didn't get it on Monday, it wasn't a shock when I called their phone and said, hey, Bob and Diane, I know we've got a meeting coming up with you next Thursday, and I didn't see your items come. I know you had mentioned that they'd probably get in the mail to me, so I should be expecting them today. They're like, oh, I'm so sorry. You know what? We'll just drive them by today. We're going to be out and about running some errands anyway, so we'll just drive them by and bring them directly by your office. Would that work okay? They were very receptive to the fact that I was calling to just follow up and make sure that everything was okay with the fact that I hadn't received them yet. They didn't get lost in the mail or anything like that. They were very receptive to that. And so again, you're going to be putting on that sticky note on that brown folder, because now we know exactly the date of their disclosure meeting. And I'm going to make a note, that that's a pink one. That's a disclosure meeting. This needs some extra preparation, particularly because I don't have their documents yet, or I do have their documents and this can get done immediately. Because if Mike had a cancellation, instead of coming in on Saturday morning, maybe he'd hurry up and grab that file right away and hammer through doing the proposal, as opposed to waiting until Saturday morning. So it always gave him an opportunity to do them as quickly as time allowed.
And I'm going to jump in there too. Guys, before Missy put this, and I should have preempted this discussion with this, before Missy put this system together, I would tell people, I'll call you when I get the proposal done. And when did I call them, guys? I said, I gathered the data, and I said, I'll call you when I get the proposal done. So when did I end up calling them, guys? Let's see some answers to that. You think I called them the next week because I got it done the next week, or when did I get it done? Guys, if you want to, the day before the appointment, well, yeah, Eric, but a day or two before the meeting, I guess I'm not asking my question very well. I apologize for that. If I didn't schedule that appointment for the next week, I wouldn't do that proposal for 3 weeks. I'd come up with all sorts of reasons why I was too busy to do the proposal. But it was amazing once I started to schedule. If I was meeting on Wednesday and I scheduled it for next Wednesday, guess when I had it done? I had it done by that Saturday. But when I said, I'll call you when it's done, I wasn't ready by the next Wednesday. I'd be lucky if I was ready by the third Wednesday from then. And that's where we're seeing guys are spreading these things out over a month, 2 months. It's crazy. They never leave your office without another appointment. And that appointment should be a week out at the latest. And what that does is it makes, we're all procrastinators, Eric, so it makes sure that you get these things done. So all of a sudden, what used to take me 3 weeks to do, I was doing 4 of them in 3 days. There's nothing like something in the calendar to make you get a deadline, to make you get these things done. And as Missy said earlier, the closer you can cram these meetings together, the higher your closing ratio. So that's why we had this system, to make sure we crunch these meetings as closely as possible and we didn't get all mixed up, and also to make sure it was for me to get things done on a timely basis. So, sorry, Missy.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to update the event tracking sheet. Now, this is the first time we've talked about the tracking sheet, so I'm going to kind of run through that a little bit. So this is after our first meeting. But the tracking sheet originally started when we started our event. So for those of you that are using the RSVP service, you would have been receiving notifications every time a person registered. Well, that's being kept on a Excel spreadsheet that you have the opportunity to download. Now, keep in mind, this process didn't happen back in the day. We created our own tracking sheet. So we've even kind of sped up the process a little bit for you guys. So you take all of the people listed on that Excel spreadsheet that you received from the RSVP company. That's what you would have made name tags with, or you printed off name tags from your RSVP account. You take that information and you just copy and paste into this event tracking. And this event tracking, all it's going to do is, again, provide another list for you to very quickly look through. If for some reason you're missing folders, you can know exactly where every person that attended your most recent event is in the process. So
and guys, this is how you build your warm list. You need to do this. You paid to get these people to raise their hand to say they're interested. You need to be accumulating all these names so that a year from now you have 300-400 people on your warm list. And what you can do with that 300 or 400 people is you'll be able to create 2 or 3 free seminars just from that warm list. So you spent the money to get these people interested. You keep their names, get them into your CRM. That is an update. The event tracking sheet is not optional. You got to do that because you spent the money to get them. I don't know how many times I've talked to people who I say, do you have a list of the names of people that have come to your events in the last 3 years? Nope. What a wasted opportunity. How much money did you waste? Because over 3 or 4 years, you could actually go if you had 3 or 4 years worth of warm prospects, you could actually do a half a year worth of events for free just on those warm prospect lists. And we've had guys do that over and over and over. So make sure you get those people on the event tracking sheet into your CRM.
And plus, as Eric points out, he says, plus they're getting the monthly drip. Absolutely. Yep. We're gonna get to that next here. You're absolutely right, Eric. By putting them on here, you have a whole list of people. These are all of the people that attended your events, and these are all of the people that you should be dripping on each and every month, because they raised their hand at some point and said, I like what you had to say. I saw this invite show up, and that interested me. So even if timing wasn't right now for them to work through the process, even if they didn't go through a first appointment, these are people that you want to stay in front of, and by all means, you should be dripping on them, because at some point in the future, timing will be right, and they'll decide that it's time for me to come back and see Eric. And you know, even though I didn't go through the process before, I'm going to give it a shot this time. So this tracking sheet is something we're going to talk about several times over, and you'll notice here that we've got first name, last name, phone number, and event date. Some of your people might stop there at event date. Some will continue on to agreement meeting. Some will continue on to disclosure meeting, and most of them will then, if they have a disclosure meeting, will continue on to the implementation meeting. So it's a very easy tracking sheet for you to always refer back to and know, you know what, now I've got 120 additional warm leads that never did an appointment with me. I'm going to continue to follow up on those people, or I'm going to send them out a specific invite, specifically for an event that I'm going to, you know, focus on just those people. So update your event tracking sheet and get them into your epidemic marketing, your DRIP program. And again, we've got a whole nother section on the website that's specific to epidemic marketing. This is going to be your client and prospect DRIP. That's the part of the epidemic marketing program that you'd be using at this point. And that's what's going to get them those monthly newsletters or those monthly little short emails that we encourage you to send out. Now we are into the disclosure meeting. So you're going to go ahead and mail them the disclosure meeting confirmation, because obviously you had 10 days or 14 days at the max from the time that their agreement meeting was until their disclosure meeting. So make sure that they get that confirmation letter. Put a copy of that in the prospects folder. They should have had their 21-point checklist proposal prepared by this point, put back in the folder, and back in the right chronological order for the meetings. Otherwise, if it hasn't been prepared, you now know this needs to get on the docket for Mike to get this proposal prepared. Print it and then go ahead and bind it or 3-hole punch. You know, binding has become a lot more, a lot less expensive and easier to be done just in a one-man, two-man office. So you can bind it, you can 3-hole punch it and put it very nicely in a 3-ring binder. We prefer that you do something more than literally just print it and pull it off the printer and throw it at them. So, but if that's what you have the ability of doing, staple it, you know, nicely on the corner or on the left side of it, and kind of make it into a little bound document for them. However, you need to prepare it. Just make sure that that is now done and put back in their folder so you're ready to go. If it's a couple, if they're married, you're going to print an extra copy of the Survivor's Guide and an extra copy of the Quality of Life Directive. Those are part of the appendice when you print your proposal out from the website. Just go ahead and make a second copy of the Survivor's Guide and the Quality of Life if it's a married couple.
And guys, that's not to give them. That's just to stay in their folder for when they do become a client. Remember, we're not giving them this stuff at the disclosure meeting, but that way you're doing it in a organized manner, so you've got it sitting there. You don't have to jump through a bunch of hoops when they actually come on as a client, but you're not going to give it to them at the disclosure meeting.
And they don't even necessarily need to know that that copy is in there, because this is just going to speed up the process to ensure that you know, 2 appointments from now you didn't forget, and you know, once they became a client, you go, oh geez, I don't even have a Survivor's Guide for the husband or the wife. Okay, and then you're going to go ahead and extend a reminder call again the day before the implementation meeting. Then you're going to have the disclosure meeting, and then immediately after they're going to walk out of the office and you're going to schedule their implementation meeting before they leave. So 7 days from now, about a week out from now, you're going to schedule the implementation meeting. You're going to go ahead and meet the...
Missy, we have a question about what CRM do you recommend?
CRM, you know, I think that ACT works really well. It's extremely basic, but not too basic that there's not enough information that you can put in there. They also have an add-on that you can do for ACT depending upon how much information you want to keep in there. That's called ACT for Advisors. It's kind of tailored to financial advisors, so it kind of uses the lingo that we're used to using. It talks about contracts as opposed to some of the other more general language that they would just use in their regular ACT rollouts. But you would just buy, and it's very inexpensive to get started with. You can customize it to some degree, so if you didn't like what they had named some of their fields, you could certainly go in there and customize it. It seems to work quite well. What does that say? Redtail? Redtail is wonderful too. So I've got an agent that says fairly reasonable. Got Redtail from one of a recommended friend. So, yep, Redtail. I can't honestly say I've heard about Redtail, but there's going to be a ton out there on the market. So I would say if that's one that's worked for you, perfect. ACT. Okay, and Carol's saying that she did a demo with them.
With ACT.
With ACT, yep, with ACT, and it's less expensive than other CRMs that she checked out, and it's a good place to start. I would wholeheartedly agree with that. Very, very intuitive. You don't have to search around for buttons, and it works extremely well. So good, inexpensive way to at least get started and get your people organized inside of a CRM. And then again, you're going to be updating the event tracking sheet because now we're one more meeting down the road. So make sure you go back to that event tracking sheet, update that again, and extend a reminder call the day before the implementation meeting. So now we're moved on to the implementation meeting. After they had that, here's where you're either going to schedule a follow-up appointment to go ahead and sign the paperwork if they're ready to go, or another follow-up appointment if they're really not 100% ready to go with the solution that you've discussed. Then it's time to schedule another appointment. You never ever want to move forward and have them sign paperwork before they are 1,000% ready that that's the right solution for them. So don't convince them to sign paperwork if they're still a little wishy-washy. Then you need to just schedule another appointment. Have them sleep on it, rehash it, come back in another few more days and follow up with whatever you discussed at the implementation meeting, the solution that you had previously given to them at that point. Follow up, rehash it, go through it again, and then schedule an appointment to do the paperwork. In our office, we scheduled that paperwork meeting about a day to 3 days out from when Mike completed the implementation meeting. I was actually I'm a licensed agent, and so I was able to sit down and do the paperwork with them, which was extremely beneficial. A, it saved Mike a lot of time. B, it saved us a lot of effort having to go back to the insurance carriers and refix forms because I was maybe a bit more detailed on that side of the process than Mike was. But it gave the client the ability to ask just one more time if this was the right thing for them to do.
And I'm going to jump in there, Missy.
Yep.
I think I've been asked 3 or 4 times in the past 6 months from guys, hey, what do you think about getting a virtual assistant to fill out that paperwork for me? No, no, no. For all the reasons Missy's talking about here. It's valuable for them to fill out the paperwork in your office because Missy, how many times after they were convinced that they wanted to do this, when you were filling out paperwork with them, did they say, now, Missy, are you sure this is is this really a good thing?
Every time. It came up at some point throughout the paperwork signing at every client. And a lot of times it was extremely lighthearted, but you could tell that it was still kind of that final thing that they needed in their mind just to make sure that, and what did they expect me to say? I'm not going to, ruin the sale and say, nope, don't. I think that what he recommended was awful. So they obviously knew in their head that I'm going to be on board with the idea too, but it was the one more opportunity that they had to verbalize and just say, do you think that this is the best thing for us? And all they wanted was one more confirmation. And it happened every person I sat down to sign paperwork for. In some way, shape, or form, it would come out that they needed that just one more confirmation.
We can never get enough confirmation that what we're doing is right when we're making a big step. So it's and also it bonded them to. They're already bonded to me. Now they're being bonded to Missy. So they're getting bonded or imprinted with your office. So it's valuable to have them fill out the paperwork in your office, and if possible, with your assistant, so they're being bonded to yet another person.
Okay, so again, we've got a sticky note. Now, I had the folder basically at this point because we now need to prepare the paperwork. In our office, Mike and I met every morning for 5 to 10 minutes to go through all of the folders that he met with, all of the people that he met with the previous day, just to make sure that no one fell through the cracks, just to make sure that we were prepared for whatever the next thing was. I could communicate to him, these people scheduled a second appointment on such and such a day, these people scheduled a third appointment on such and such a day, you need to do this 21-point checklist. It really gave us an opportunity to just meet with each other and just make sure that we had checks and balances in place and no one fell through the cracks. It gave us a good chance to really sit down for the people that were ready to have paperwork signed. So I had a very clear picture that, okay, so we're moving Kay's IRA to this, and we're moving John's IRA to this, and their non-qualified account is going here. And I could reiterate that and make sure I wasn't reading into Mike's notes incorrectly. So it gave us an opportunity to really sit down and rehash it. And it was literally 5 to 10 minutes. This did not take a long time. Gave me confidence to go back, start all of the paperwork, get it all prepared, and know that I wasn't going to put packs of paperwork together only to find out that, oh, I misunderstood that, and really that none of that is accurate. We don't need that anymore. So now they're coming back in. We went ahead and we signed the paperwork, and again, as we discussed, they asked for that one more confirmation if this was the right thing for them to go ahead and do. I photocopy all of the signed documents, provide a copy to the client, send them on their way, and then after the client leaves, now they're truly our client. They signed the paperwork. I went ahead and I submitted added every one of their policies to my submitted business tracking sheet. So this was just a tracking sheet, and some of you have heard Mike say that he had no earthly idea what kind of business had been written and we hadn't been paid for yet. This was the tracking log that I used. He had no idea what had been submitted, but this was something that gave me a log to look at it really quickly. If he came out and said, hey, what do we have kind of in the pipeline, I knew exactly at any one point what business had been submitted, what client, what carrier. Once I started getting the policy number, I could fill that in, what was expected for the premium, what commission we expected on that, and whether or not it was paid, and if so,
hey guys,
when it was paid.
This was for Missy to make sure we got paid what we're supposed to get paid on. But as she said, I didn't have any clue what business was in the pipeline. I didn't have any clue what I came to work, I helped the people, and I saw the next person and helped that person, saw the next person, helped that person. When I quit focusing on how much money I was making, I made huge amounts of money. Did you get that? When I quit focusing on how much money I was making, I began to make huge amounts of money. Because all the people sensed, I didn't look at them as a paycheck. I looked at them as people that I was helping. So when you can get to the point where you're no longer looking at how much business is being written, you just turn that over to your trusted assistant, you radio a totally different message to the client.
And this also gave me a place that I could call off of every single week to check the status from the carrier. I personally preferred to do that instead of get that information from ECA. I just called directly to the carrier, asked them what the status was, and that gave me a really comfortable idea as to what was going on. If there was something that was getting missed, I knew it was very timely that I was able to resolve it, and that gave me a chance to contact the client every week. Even if there was no change, I called the client and I said, hi, Martha, I'm just calling to follow up on, let you know that, I checked with ING and, everything is status quo. Really, there's nothing else that's going on. I did check on the American Equity policy and that they are processing the blah, blah, blah transfer. And they were thrilled to hear from me. Even if there was nothing, I had to call and just say hi and there's nothing else going on, they were okay with that. They understand that things take time to process.
But
what
silence is bad.
Yeah, they're absolutely not comfortable if they don't hear from you. They sign paperwork and then they don't hear from you for weeks on end. In their minds, they think that the money has been pulled out of wherever it's coming from and it's floating around in outer space and it's not doing anything for them and there's something bad that's going to happen to it. So this uncomfortable silence goes away just by me picking up the phone and telling them, I don't know anything different, but everything's fine. Everything's in order. They're processing it. I'm hoping that by the time I call you next week, I'll know a little bit something more. But I'll be in touch with you sometime next week. Does that sound okay? And they're like, perfect. Thanks so much for calling. Again, it's all about expectations. And if they sign something and they don't bother, they expect to hear from you at some point. And if you don't follow up with them, they sit at home and they think, oh, you know what? Maybe that wasn't the right thing for us to do. Maybe I should have thought about this a little bit more before I just hurried up and signed that paperwork. So they want to hear that things are okay, things are being processed. It also, if something went amok with it and a wrong form, got submitted and then needed to be re-signed later, they're way more forgiving because they're like, oh, yeah, I know they told you 10 days ago that they were submitting it and processing it because you've been calling me. So it's certainly not your fault that they decided that they wanted a different form. So it's a really good, it's not even a habit, it's not even a good thing to do, it becomes a habit. You need to get back in touch with these clients.
Guys, this is why we didn't have chargebacks, because of this constant contact with the clients.
And then the policy is going to come on into your office after everything's said and done. You're going to contact the client as soon as that policy arrives in your office, schedule a delivery appointment with them. And then we use what's called a client flow chart. And again, all of these items are available to you. We've made templates of all of this stuff to kind of speed up the process a little bit. And I'll show you here a flow chart in just a second. I thought I had a picture of it here. But and then we copied the contract just to keep in our office files. I'm just going to take a step back on the flow chart a second. So what that did was just show them a visual as to where the money came from, where the money went, what beneficiaries were on the contract, made it much easier for them to see, okay, well, I no longer have my IRA that was at this place because it's now gone into American Equity instead. Or that moved over, this policy moved over to Allianz. So there was no confusion of we made a lot of changes, do I have that or do I not have that anymore? Okay, so there's an example of the flow chart. This person went into Great American. We took it from their retirement account, their VALIC retirement account, went into Great American. There's the contract number, premium, the titling on the account itself, who their primary beneficiary was, the contingent beneficiaries that we listed, and the contract start date. So at a snapshot, that was on the top of the policy copy or their original policy, and I would just kind of tuck it in there, and that gave them a really good idea. Here's exactly where everything went and where it went into and the information that I have.
And we had a copy in our folder too, so it's because that stuff can get way confusing, so it's a nice, like Missy said, snapshot.
Yep. And then we'd go ahead and sign and submit any of the delivery paperwork, send that off to the carrier, and they are officially a new client, so we'd go ahead and mail them out a new client welcome kit and letter. Now you can use whatever you want for a little kind of welcome kit. We used this $1 million blanket. It was really nothing special, but they thought it was quite neat and a communication, definitely a communication starter when their friends came over. Where did you get that $1 million blanket? So that went out in the mail the day that they signed the paperwork along with a letter. The letter just went through our office staff. Who did what, here's the contact information, just kind of the warm and fuzzy, so they felt like even if they didn't meet other people behind the scenes or there was other people, back there, they know who everyone is that works with Mike. or they know who Missy is and what her background is, so that, you know, these people aren't just strange people anymore. They're actual people that they can understand and know that can help them. And at the same time, we'd go ahead and mail out an intro letter to their CPA or their attorney. And we have that letter available to you. That's basically just introducing you to the fact that you now have a mutual client. Hi CPA, hi attorney, we have a shared client and I want to let you know that I'm available to help you in any way, shape, or form. If you have questions, I handle the financial aspect of these people's accounts, and I want you to feel super comfortable to pick up the phone and give me a call.
Guys, this is awesome because a lot of times I bring on 5 new clients or 10 new clients from the same CPA. And what do you think that says to the CPA when I brought on 10 of their clients that year? So it's a fantastic thing to be sending out. So what I'm a new client welcome letter, CPA attorney letter is the day after the implementation. No, we just tried to send it out all on the same day. So they got we sent out the new sales kit the same day and the attorney CPA letter the same day, because you know it was just all part of the same process. Boom, went out and then you didn't need to worry about it again. Again, if you want to send it out the next day, that's fine. But I wanted that welcome kit to be in their mailbox the very next day, and you might as well just do the CPA and attorney letter all at the same time. Necessary? No, but that's. So after delivery of signing the app, yes, that's when you do it. It's after the delivery and the sign. No, after delivery, not after signing the app. After the delivery.
And so I've heard a couple of people asking where this information can be found, and are all of these bullet points somewhere out on the website? Absolutely they are. So right here we've logged into the website. We're just underneath the Getting Started with 5Q page, which is right here. When you click on it, this is Organizing Your Office Flow. So this is the manual which these bullet points all came from. So all of the bullet points that we just talked about are in this manual. The client flowchart sample, we're providing you with a template right there. The new client introduction letter, the CPA attorney. So this is the letter that you're just going to go ahead and personalize and send right out to, I'll pull it up here for you, and send out to their the fact that you have a mutual client. So let's see. I'm going to pull it over here on my screen. Real basic, but really nice, and just tells them, hey, you know, I know you've done some things for them, and you've done a great job. Let me know if there's any way I can assist with you. I believe the transition to me went very smoothly. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a call, blah, 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 blah. Because you want
Missy,
to...
If I'm going to step back, Missy, when do do we send the welcome kit out after they sign the apps or after we deliver the policy?
I actually signed them or sent it after they signed the apps, kind of that final thing to help them not bail out.
Right. So I misspoke, Eric. And then how about the attorney CPA letter? When did that go out?
And I just did that after we actually delivered the policy, because I didn't want to ever have to go back on the CPA or the attorney and have them find out that, no, they never ended up becoming a client. Not that that ever happened to us, but I didn't want to ever jinx it, so I waited until we actually delivered the policy before I'd send that out.
So I misspoke, guys. So after the app, you send out the welcome kit, and then after you deliver, you send out the CPA attorney. So thanks for clarifying that for me, Missy, and Eric. Thank you.
And then there's the event tracking sheet that we've been talking about, and the business tracking sheet. So all of the items we just got done talking about are all available to you out on the website. Some of the letters that we talked about are available to you out on the website underneath agreement meeting. That appointment confirmation letter is available there. The fact-find data gathering form that you're printing out and going through during your agreement meeting and using to complete your 21-point checklist is available on the website as well. So I think that pretty much takes care of everything I wanted to go through. Mike, do you have any other comments that you want to add into that?
No, but thank you very much for putting this together. Guys, was this helpful to you guys? So thanks, Missy, for doing this. And,
absolutely.
Guys, this is a fantastic way to organize your office. So,
guys, and I want
yes,
sorry, I was just going to say, and I want you guys to feel comfortable to call me. I might not have the answer right off the top of my head. This has been a little while for me to kind of poke through and figure this whole process out over time again. But I will certainly help find you something that's going to work for the way your office is, and you know, try to answer any question that we can make your life a little bit easier. you need to have a system. Even if you don't take this exact system, figure out a system that works for you, and follow it, because that's the thing that helped us not lose policies, not lose people in the shuffle falling between one appointment to another appointment. We were always prepared for them when they walked in the door. We knew who was walking through the door next. You need to have a system.
Guys, this lent a lot of trust to what we did, because we never ended up with a yoke on our face because we didn't know what was going on with the client. You'll lose clients left and right if you do that. This kept us, like Missy said, right on track. We were never lost. We never lost anything from the clients by having the system. Okay?
Perfect.
Thanks, everybody.
Sorry I went a few minutes over there, but hopefully that got everyone on track. So we'll go ahead and post this call out on the website as well. So if you want to refer back to it, it will be available. And then feel free to contact me if you have any questions.
And also feel free to have your staff watch this coaching call, guys. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. We will talk to you all Friday because you're all going to be on the getting on their side call, right? Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.